I have for you a fascinating and stunning report from the Texas Tribune that outlines how police officers who responded to the Uvalde mass shooting at Robb Elementary, where 19 students were killed and 2 teachers, were afraid to go in. You might remember they just would not respond properly. They would not enter the room and stop the shooter because he had an AR-15. That's why they're saying they were afraid. And while this is not an excuse for their improper response, it does highlight something that we've said for a long time on the left, which is if you actually cared about police officers, you would be pro more gun control, pro common sense gun legislation. And it is the Republican Party who's constantly saying the words, as we talked about in the last segment, saying the words of we support the cops, but not allowing legislation that would actually make them safer. And in this situation may have allowed them to respond better. Again, it's not an excuse for their actions, but it's what they're citing here. So take a look at a little bit of this recording from the Texas Tribune, or they're highlighting this recording, and you can hear the police officers talking about him having an AR-15, and then one of the statements from one of these police officers about it.
Cover. Have a male subject with an AR.
You know what kind of gun?
No, man, the AR. He has a battle rifle. Does he really?
What's the safest way to do this? I'm not trying to get clapped out.
We need it.
You knew that it was definitely a AR 223 round. You could see the shell casings. We had no choice but just to wait and try to get something that had better coverage where we could actually stand up to him.
I called for long rifles, I know that. I don't know what words I used, but I knew we needed to get a whole bunch of those over there because I didn't have one, and I don't recall if Lieutenant Martinez even had one when we walked up.
Stop my truck, take out my AR, get it ready. You know, I know there's schools going on. You know, I should be shooting. I need my AR.
Safe.
Okay, so you can hear them very aware of the fact that it was an AR-15 that was making them, or that was what they were feeling justified not actually entering. Here from the Texas Tribune, once they saw a torrent of bullets tear through a classroom wall and metal door, the first police officers in the hallway of Robb Elementary School concluded they were outgunned and that they could die. The gunman had an AR-15, a rifle designed used by U.S. soldiers in every conflict since Vietnam. Its bullets flew toward the officers at 3 times the speed of sound and could have pierced through body armor like a hole punch through paper. They grazed 2 officers in the head, and the group retreated. It outlines some of those quotes we heard in that video. Quote, "You knew that it was definitely an AR," Uvalde Police Department Sergeant Donald Page said in an interview with investigators after the school shooting. "There was no way of going in. We had no choice but to wait and try to get something that had better coverage where we could actually stand up to him." So when there's kids and they're dying, you enter. I understand that it's terrifying, but you enter. But the fact that they, as police officers, recognize the threat of an AR-15 in the situation to the point where it changes their actions so dramatically highlights, again, if you cared about the lives, as the modern Republican Party is constantly talking about, of children and police officers, protecting children and standing up for police officers. Clearly, that's not genuine, because children are dying. The leading cause of death for children is gun violence, and police officers are in more unsafe situations and are making worse decisions because of the reality of guns designed for war being on the streets. So the lives of children and police officers are being threatened because so many Republicans won't get on board with common sense gun legislation. And don't give me this, no, it's only about mental health or other factors, poverty. Those things need to be addressed too. And often when the Democratic Party puts forward legislation on mental health, for example, Republicans block it. But it's also about gun legislation. When you look at the primary variable that sets the United States apart from other countries, well, there's 2. We have way more guns way less regulated. That's one. And we have way more gun violence than many other comparable countries. So connect the dots. Other countries have mental health problems. Other countries have issues with poverty. They don't see the gun violence that we see. Why is that? Because we don't implement common sense gun control. And so two of the things they talk about the most, backing the blue, protecting the kids. They'll protect the kids, they'll care about protecting the kids when it comes to drag queen story hours, which aren't harming children. And they won't talk about the leading cause of death for children, which is gun violence, and actually implementing solutions to that. It really is sickening. And then backing the blue, clearly not, because the thing that will make cops less safe, we're not regulating properly, being these guns designed to kill people, even if they have, protective gear on. Stunning. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.